Welcome to Nightlight. Step away from the mainstream and gather around as we enlighten the world and our realities and travel this cosmic journey we call life. Join us as we share with you and provide that beacon that can guide us all to a better way. Explore with us as we examine a metaphysical montage of spiritual insights, covering everything from the mundane to the magical, UFOs to unicorns, and everything in between. This is a time of awakening, of sharing and evolving, of spreading our wings and soaring on the cosmic breath of creation. Come and join with other light-minded spirits as we weave our lights together to seek understanding, enlightenment, and, with a little luck, some wisdom. This is Nightlight, a reminder that you are never alone.
Thank you for joining us for part 2 of our trilogy on UFOs. This is a regular topic, so I don't know why I'm calling it a series, but we're going to have a great show anyways. We have a few new voices tonight. Mary Bassett, Deb, and ARJAY DeROUSSE are from the Fascinating Voices of Contact podcast. Another one of their panelists is a regular on Nightlight. That's Michael Carter. All will be appearing at this year's Michigan UFO Conference to be held September 22nd and 23rd. We're going to find out a little bit more about that in just a second. And you can learn more by going to their website, miufocon.com, like Michigan UFO Conference.com. Hi, Mary, Michael, Deb, and ARJAY. How's everyone tonight?
Hey, Mark. How are you?
Hey, Mark. Thanks for having us.
Oh, thanks for being guests. I'm doing fine. Okay, so Deb and ARJAY, you've been producing this conference for several years. What are you trying to accomplish?
Well, the conference actually started 6 years ago. So it started after a big experience that I had. I had missing time, and I know without a doubt that I was downloaded with information, and part of the download was to be a voice and get the information out. We didn't really plan on doing this conference. It just kind of came out of my mouth that we were going to do it, and we instantly knew who we had to have as speakers, how it was all going to work. And again, it was definitely downloaded information. So, the goal is, Mark, to awaken people, to open minds, and to make this more of a normal topic rather than a paranormal topic. Not that it's not paranormal, but we would like everybody to be able to understand and not have the fear of off-planet beings. So that's kind of bottom line what my goal is, anyways.
Yes, when I met Deb, she was really into the paranormal and really into the ghosts, and she's a psychic medium. And the one thing that I was totally into, because I had experiences earlier, missing time, was the UFO situation. And I tell you, I was so glad. She might have not have been so glad about it, but I was so glad she had that experience because it put us on the track that we are on now, and got us to where we're going. And yes, it was definitely meant to be. I think we are being guided, and to bring that to this area, to this part of the country, was one of our goals. And we get people from everywhere, really, but up here in northern Michigan, it's pretty quaint. So to bring this information here was one of our goals also.
Okay, so it wasn't too much discussed in northern Michigan prior to starting the conferences. It's kind of you're breaking the ice,
right?
For
in
the
the area
okay.
that we live in, 5 years ago, if you said UFO, people look at you like you have 5 heads.
Mm-hmm.
So it's becoming a little more accepted in this area. People are waking up a little bit more, but it's taking time.
And oddly enough, Mark, a lot of people in this area do have sightings. So.
Okay. I hope the listeners keep that in mind for next week's show as well. That's a perfect segue for next week's panel of experts that we'll be having on. But okay, everyone on your Voices of Contact podcast, as well as at the conference, are all experiencers. What do you what do they bring to all of your podcasts, as well as speaking at the conference?
Well, first of all, we're very blessed that they have all agreed to speak at our conference because, they are experiencers and, many years of experiences. They're able to connect and discuss with people who are curious or who may have had experiences but are afraid to talk about them. So they're bringing knowledge and wisdom and compassion as well to the table, for the attendees, and that's huge. So we're really blessed to have, Michael Carter and Mary Bassett and Deborah Cobble, not only on Voices of Contact, but speaking at the Michigan UFO Contact.
And, we have a segment on Fridays where about 2 hours where people can come up to the microphone and tell their story. And I think by listening to Michael and other people tell about their experiences, they feel more comfortable that they can share these experiences. And some people, for the first time, are telling people what happened to them. And after that, they feel so relieved that people will listen and they don't get ridiculed. And it's just a big load off their consciousness and their chest.
Okay. You just mentioned compassion, and RJ was just talking about the relief that follows a confession, if that's the right word. But if our listeners watch your Voices of Contact podcast, I think they'd come away with that you establish a nurturing environment. It sounds like you continue that with the conferences, that there's a lot of helping of people, therapeutic. What are you learning about the people who are coming to you with their stories? Is that becoming far more socially acceptable? Are they finding a companionship with like-minded people?
Absolutely. And Michael and Mary, please chime in here, because, after you listen to Michael speak, we had him at the conference last year, so many people were so impressed and so, I didn't really look at it that way, what he was speaking about. And Mary brings actual experiencers to the forefront, and what we see similar things happening with people that people always talk about. So it kind of gives you can tell by the same things are happening, so there must be some reality to it that can't be overlooked.
Yeah. I think that Mary's expertise as a regressionist, of course, ARJAY and Deb, who are into metaphysics and just cultivating spirituality, as is Mary, as are we all. I think it kind of lends itself to an atmosphere of healing. One thing I will say, though, and I think that Deb and ARJAY and Mary, it's kind of cutting edge, because if you come to that conference, we have people who are talking about so many different things: UFOs, Bigfoot, the paranormal, tech, conspiracy theories, and it's all under one rubric. And usually we're so compartmentalized that we don't speak to each other. It's like, well, Bigfoot people have their own conference, and UFO people have their own conference, and now we're coming together because it's really, I think, all part of the same phenomenon, which is, the mystery of reality from what we've been told and the experiences that we each have. And that's one of the things I personally like about it, because it's not just, we're just talking about one facet of the phenomenon.
Okay. Let's bring Mary in. Mary, you do have a clientele that is regressed by you. We really haven't gone into a lot of detail about that subject on Nightlight. Can you explain a little bit about how it works and what it reveals about your clients' experiences?
Yeah. Well, scientific studies have shown that pretty much, at least 15 minutes out of every hour, we're in some kind of hypnosis state. That's why they play so many commercials on TV, is because they know half the time we're kind of dazed and confused, and just our subconscious is absorbing all that information. It's kind of like the same thing when you're driving, and then all of a sudden 15 minutes later, you're like, hey, how did I get here? Knowing that you were driving the whole time, but you kind of just spaced out. So that's kind of like the alpha stage. And when you're doing regression work, it's a deeper trance state. So it's a symbolistic type trance. So you're going very, very deep, like dreamlike state. And so whatever it is that the person wants to work with, whether it's an ET experience or a traumatic experience, a paranormal experience, you take them through that experience, and then as they go along, they go deeper and deeper into that trance-like state. They get out of their own way. So they're able to recall to the subconscious mind things that they normally couldn't recall with their conscious mind, because half the time the conscious mind is protecting your energy so that, because it's all fear-based. When we tap at the subconscious, you're able to get out of your own way and actually get to the answers. And so that's what I do through that regression work. And like the second half is extremely healing, because it's just, you've gone through the experience without actually having to experience it again. You kind of observe it and talk about what's happening. And then to the subconscious side, you can ask deeper questions and get real answers, but also do a lot of healing work with cutting the cords and letting things go so you don't find that attachment. You can just let go of the fear. And, it gives people a chance to connect and to get their experience out there, just like the UFO con. It's like like-minded people where they can feel comfortable knowing that they're not the only ones who, and many of them have lived, 20, 30 years, some of them. I talked to several people last week at the Michigan Paracon where they've been living with this stuff for 35 years, and they never wanted to talk about it because they didn't think there were people out there that were actually going to listen, have an open mind, and say, yeah, I've experienced the same thing. Because they all think it's weird when really it's mainstream now.
Okay, so is the techniques that are being used today, are they pretty much the same as like Betty and Barney's regressions 60 years ago, or has the technique been developed more, and it's revealing a deeper experience, or the experience is being relived on a deeper level, more visual. What have you noticed anything like that in your work?
I would definitely say that since 6 years ago of hypnosis and regression, it has progressed a long way. Does it have the same basic theme and line of what you're using or what you're doing? Yes. I've studied under two different styles of regression work. I studied under Dolores Cannon, and then I also studied under Yvonne Smith, and you can see the similarities of what they're doing and how they're doing it, counting people back and taking them under, but it's two completely different styles. And I kind of created my own style from those, starting 60 years ago. You're talking about people who have taken one style, created a part of their own, and merged it. There's so many different ways to do hypnosis and regression, and no one way is the right way except for the person who's doing that regression work. And anybody who's spending the time to do that kind of work has taken it seriously and worked hard at developing their own way. But I can guarantee there's probably hundreds of different ways to do regression work in different styles. But it's definitely progressed over the years. Definitely. More of I'd like to think more of a soul-based versus just the scientific method.
Okay. That's Fair enough. This is new to me, maybe new to some of the listeners, but I'm really glad you were here tonight to explain, go into a little bit more detail. Michael, when you hear Mary's tapes that she plays during the Voices of Contact show, is it pretty similar to the regression sessions that you had a few decades ago after you had your just about Christmas 1989 experience?
You mean back in 1774? Is that what you mean? Yes,
You're not that old.
Yes. No, it was a while ago. Yeah, and Deb Cobble would probably agree because I was fortunate enough to have Bud Hopkins regress me and Gene Mundy, and yeah, I agree with her, and yeah, it does remind me of some of those same techniques because again, what we know about the mind and the subconscious has changed, and so your techniques may change, but it's still getting the person to relax, getting them to feel safe, and at times when you see the person going under, just reminding them that you're okay, and we don't have to get into too deep if you don't want to, but try and go back and to remember, those types of things, the calming voice, the soothing voice, all of those things help to, make the regression successful for both the person being regressed and the hypnotherapist.
Okay. So, Michael, is kind of a follow-up to what Mary's doing and what you were just discussing. Are conferences, the podcasts, can those be places where the mentor or teacher that you bring up in your initiation usually appears in someone's life, or could it be a more nondescript location?
Oh, that's a great question. I like a live audience, and I'm fortunate enough to do that every Sunday at church. It's the podcasts are great, but it's a different kind of energy because you're not there in front of the person. But again, if we talk about Roderick and people who do, you guys with Barbara, you're opening up people, you're giving people a chance to, gather with like-minded people, hear different ideas. The conference is wonderful because you're right there. There's the buzz, there's the excitement, you're meeting, you're networking, you can continue the conversation afterwards, you exchange cards, maybe you keep the conversation going, well now with technology, when you go back home. And so you just have more of a chance because there's so many people there, so there's more opportunities. And as RJ was saying before, and I think that's for me as a speaker as well, because I'm learning from the other folks, and I keep in touch, you network, as I said before. So it's nothing like the live audience. It's nothing like that. And yes, you can meet your mentors there, or you can wind up being a mentor to somebody.
it was either Deb or RJ mentioned Deb Cobble's story. It's interesting that she actually worked with Bud Hopkins.
Yeah.
And she's going to be a speaker as well. We have to get Deb as a guest too. There's like so many interesting people, panelists on your show. But she's going to be speaking at the conference too. But can you tell us a little bit about Cobble's background? Deb or RJ, do you want to take that one, or someone else want to?
I think Michael probably knows Deb a little bit better than we do because he's known her longer. Do you want to answer that, Michael?
Yeah, as well as I can. Deb was working under an alias with Bud, and she was having her experiences, and Bud was kind of like a guide, a mentor. I'm sure, just saying, this is real, but there's a way we can deal with this. And I think, again, going with Mary, I think that's the role of regressionists, and John Mack did the same thing. And so, and Deb Cobble still speaks very highly of Bud, and I know she says she misses him terribly. But he was like a mentor there, and took her seriously. And she would fly to New York, or he would fly to visit her, and so that relationship was strengthened very much so.
Okay. So, and Deb has also been a character in Bud's one of Bud's books. Is that
Intruders?
Okay. What's that story?
Well, I would like. I don't know. I think Deb needs to be able to tell her own story, and I know she's not here, but she's an experience. I think she would want to tell her own story. I don't want to do that.
But she can.
I'd like to mention that.
Sure.
I'm sorry. I'd like to mention she has a couple of books out too that talks about her story. One being called "Abducted: A Story of Intruders Continues" and "Extraordinary Contact: Life Beyond Intruders." So she, if you get those books, it's much more detailed than we can get into. But if you read Intruders, I'm pretty sure they didn't use her real name, right, Michael?
No, that's right. She had a name.
Yeah, she had a different name. So, but yeah, she visited New York quite often, according to her. That, and like you said, Michael, Bud was a mentor to her.
Right.
Yeah.
And the full name of the book. Oops, I'm sorry.
It's Extraordinary Contact. Who wrote? Let me look here. Yvonne Smith wrote the foreword for it. And she went through it. She went through synchronicities, premonitions. It was a journey for her, and it wasn't always sweetness and light. And she talks, about the growth and resilience and tragedy and loss. And so she'd be a great guest. But again, that was a great. You're right, RJ. People can pick up the book.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Yeah, and she talks about her experiences on the Voices of Contact a lot too.
Right. And she had some incredible experiences with a lot of physical evidence left behind. So, I would love for her to come on and tell her story. I don't know if anybody knows, the title on the book is Intruders, The Incredible Visitations at Coakley Woods, was also made into a series in 1992.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
they may have seen that as well.
Deb, what you said about resilience comes to mind as a appropriate adjective from last week's show with Jackie and Bill Kuselis talking about their post-traumatic growth that they noticed from people who had connections to those who died on the Silver Bridge collapse in association with the Mothman legacy. And as more people are coming forward, Michael, you're dealing with a lot of people at conferences, and you I saw how much people wanted to talk to you at the Edgar Casey conference. But do you find that even though they may have been at least shaken at the right in the aftermath, that the human mind can turn it into a very enriching experience?
Yeah, how can I say? I think, okay, when I met Deb, because we were both in support groups in New York, and there were people who had traumatic experiences. Some people, like myself, they were traumatic because of the high strangeness, but the effect on my life was positive. And I kind of opened myself up to that. There were people who had terrible experiences. And it was sperm taken, ovum taken, anal probe. I mean, just being treated badly. And what we tried to do is to make room for that. And so, there was, I couldn't say that they could turn that into a positive. Do you know what I mean? Because people are built differently. Whereas I might try to find a silver lining or may see a silver lining, there were some people who didn't have that. And I could understand that. And so I think it was very important and is very important to let people have that space. So the human mind can adapt, but that doesn't mean that it's always, you survive it. You survive it. And then some people, like myself, I still have a hard time being home alone, and that's, after all this stuff at night. But I've seen the things in my life change. I've seen the positive in it. But for some people, there may not be a positive thing about the contact. So, it depends.
Okay. Mary, are you able to help people during regression, or is that not a part of the session? Or once you get the tape, are you able to be a life coach afterwards?
Always. Just like if I do my readings or my regression work, they're always welcome to, after they listen to the recording of the regression work, I always send a recording with them so they can listen to it. And I'm always open if they have questions or they need help, because once you go through an experience, and it's what I tell people before you do regression work, realize that you might remember something you weren't ready to remember, and you're opening a can of worms. So at that point, you're not just done with the client because the regression work is done. You stay there because they might want to do more regressions, or they just need to talk, they need to process it, because everybody goes through enlightenment and a little bit of awakening and the clarification that comes from regression work. So it's always that support system. It doesn't just stop with the regression and we're done. That's the whole point of the regression work, is to be of service and to help people, help them find answers, help them heal, help them to have less fear so they can sleep again at night.
Yeah, that comes across on the podcasts.
Yeah, it really does. It really does. And one thing I wanted to say, Mark, and I think Mary just touched on it. Whether you think it was a good thing that happened to you, or whether you feel like it was an intrusion, or where do they get permission to do this? However, wherever you come down on it, I think that what we try to get people to see is that you can still live your life. You still have a life ahead of you. You know what I mean? No matter how traumatic this has been, or even if it was just all lovely for you, that you can still have some normality in your life. And I think people want to know that and the religious and the religious questions.
Yeah. Okay. And Deb and RJ, you have Bill Konkolsky.
Konkolsky.
Okay, Konkolsky.
Okay, it's a tough one.
It's a tough one.
Yeah, I apologize. He's Michigan's MUFON director. We're going to have West Virginia's MUFON director about 3 weeks or so. And next week's show, we're going to have a MUFON investigator. We've had another MUFON investigator on earlier this year. I think it was earlier this year. So you have a lot of leading Michigan UFO researchers there. What is Bill going to be discussing at the conference?
Well, Bill is an experiencer himself, so he always talks about his experiences, a continuous experiencing. He also, they conduct a MUFON meeting on Saturday mornings, and it gives people a chance to, check out MUFON, what it is, and people can join there, and many people have joined during his time there. So, but Bill, if you want to talk to Bill, and if you have a sighting, he'll explain to you how to go about, reporting it, and a lot of times people are there that had saw the same thing, and so it gives them a chance to talk about it. But yeah, he's an author himself. He's an experiencer. He conducts a MUFON meeting there, which people can join, and he just brings a lot of knowledge to the conference.
Right, and he's also a part of and Michael is as well, part of the experiencer panel on Fridays for people to talk with. And Bill plays a very big role. He's been there every year, and he's phenomenal. People love talking to him. You know, he has the knowledge of the phenomenon itself, but he also has the experience behind his belt. He still lives with it. Bill was actually regressed by Mary last year at the conference live in front of the whole audience.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So that was, you know, kudos to him for being brave enough to do that, right?
Okay. And Mary, will you be doing that again this year?
I will be. Yep, I'll be doing a live regression again this year, and I have a gentleman in mind. He's a very interesting client, very highly spiritual. He's evolving at this moment. The experiences that I've worked with him on already are pretty intriguing, and so hopefully I'll be able to get him in there for a live regression. It's really amazing to see the live experience and the process of it, and how I take them under and then walk them through the experience so they can release the fear and actually just observe the experience and get the full answers of what actually happened through that contact.
And I must say, she's keeping this top secret. None of us know.
That's the fun of it, isn't it?
Yeah.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
You know, I just want to say that, you know, Mary, it was a brilliant idea for her to come up with this Voices of Contact. She always says it's a win-win situation, not only for the person being regressed, but for people who listen to the show to get information about, you know, abductions or experiences. And so it's cool to become a family. I must say, because it's a serious topic, that sometimes we like to lighten up and have fun and laugh together and keep it, you know, to where it can be fun also, because it's a very traumatic thing to have an experience, of course, for everybody. But like Michael said, we're still here. We survived, and that's the important thing, and there's reasons behind it, and we're trying to find those reasons.
Okay.
I find that in those shows, there's always a trigger for somebody else through that regression work. When we're going through that person's experience as a panel, there's always somebody who contacts me and says, now I'm starting to remember. And they want to experience it. Even the person who was regressed, when they listen back at it, they don't remember half the stuff they said. Then they have to go back and listen to the recording to get the whole take of that regression, because then it opens their eyes up to a whole different perspective of what their perspective was. They have a new take on that experience itself. It's very healing for everybody.
Well, I saw that, you know, with Michael at Virginia Beach, and, you know, like I said, next week's show is probably going to be touching on the same subject of just getting the conversation started begins the healing process. I think, you know, just go back to the early episodes of Ancient Aliens and look at how much, you know, people are talking about UFOs, you know, without having to whisper. It was even discussed in Congress openly just a few weeks ago. So I think there's more socially acceptable and environment now to these experiences.
Yeah, I agree. The thing is, it's like, yes, we're having these hearings, and it's great. I'm loving it. Of course, I wish our government was a little more transparent, but it is what it is. However, what I think conferences, and there are not many. There used to be one up in New England where it was run by experiencers, and was what it does is it keeps the experiencer in the forefront. Because with Congress, and right now, at least for right now, that may change. It's on the tech, it's on the technology, it's on whether these beings are a threat, and so it's on one level. But by having conferences like this, we're showing that there's another level of it. That there's another level where it's just the everyman and woman. We may not be at the hearings, but there are people who've been seeing these beings, and quite frankly, some of us may know a little more on certain aspects of it than maybe our government officials, or at least we're being open to that. So I said that 2023 is the year of the experiencer, and I believe that. And you're seeing now we have the writer's strike, we have the actor's strike, but I know for a fact there are plenty of documentaries that are already in the can, just looking for like Netflix or someone. They're being shopped around. I don't know if you know Spielberg is coming out with his new project. I think it has something to do with experiencers. So it's in the mainstream, and it's not going away.
No, Michael, I think you're one of the main voices of why the UFO topic is here to stay. Well, I don't know about that, but I thank you, Mark. I'm going to be really excited. They're not talking about it now. Well, at least not publicly. I'm sure the Vatican and other people are in high-ranking clergy, but when this, eventually they're going to have to get around to the religious aspect of this. And hopefully I'll be able to make a contribution. Because eventually they're going to have to talk about it. You can talk about back engineering, you can talk about the technology, but eventually you're going to have to talk about what is this doing for religion here in the West. Well, I think you and Barbara Patrick and Wally, so many people made these great cases that this was already covered 3,000 years ago in the book of Exodus. What we're talking about now really isn't anything new. No, it isn't. It really isn't. And it even predates that, as you know, with the Sumerian, Akkadian, and Babylonian cultures, which is where Genesis got their information. And even with these Tic Tac sightings and what have you, just what, 70 some odd years ago? I mean, the Foo Fighters during World War II, we were seeing these craft. Mm-hmm. The military was. And some of them fired on them, and some people got a little jammed up. Some people lost their lives. So it's new to a lot of people, but it's not new to some people. And I guess that's where the patience comes in. And how it's being spoon-fed to us. But
this is how it is. I'm just glad we're having the conversation as a nation. Our leaders are talking about it.
Oh, I am too, and the conversation is going to continue next week with Roderick and his Black Project, but and maybe a couple of everyone's friends, Dale Quigley and Michael John, are usually at these conferences, and they had Mary on their show from the conference a couple weeks ago, and they have the Paranormal Voice podcast. They'll be coming over from Ontario. Is Canada having any different stories, new news coming out of the country, or just the area? This Michigan conference is attracting international attendees. So, have you heard anything about what information that Michael and Dale might be bringing to their appearance at the conference?
Well, first of all, we love our Canadian brothers and sisters. We're so blessed for them to come over and be a part of our conference. Michael and Dale are great friends of ours, and they've had experiences themselves, and they shared that. So yeah, this is what they came to the conference for the first time last year, and we're blown away, and now they're all on board. So. After listening to Michael, I know they just they saw things in a different light, and listening to regressions and all that. So we're so glad to have them there and for them to share this information with their groups and their people. That's how it happens. Michael, what was the name of the guy that was the head of the defense for the Canadian military who he went public about UFOs? Do you remember that? Gentleman, I can't remember his name.
Paul Hellyer.
Yeah. So he's come out and he's flat out said that that this is real. So the Canada has a lot of sightings, just like the United States, just like around the world.
Yeah, Michael John had quite an experience. I believe it was earlier this year. And he's very open about the fact that he was one of our regressed people on the Voices of Contact. So we really thank him for that. His story was pretty amazing, and it altered his life in a beautiful way. So we're thrilled that he was able to talk about that and kind of work through it together. And that's what the show is really all about, is nobody's alone in this. Let's talk. Let's be together in this, because it's, as Michael said, it's very traumatic for some people. Even when it's a good experience, it can be terrifying. And the social aspect of it is not all that pleasant either. So, yeah, opening it up. And, Michael said earlier this year that 2016 is the year of the experiencer, and he mentioned that. And he's 2023. Whoa, I know what it is. But, okay, 2023. Sorry about that, Michael. But it absolutely is
There's a time lapse
weird.
during the live show.
Well, she had a very eye-opening encounter in 2016.
Yeah. Well, that's when my big experience happened. But also coming into 2016, I was almost in a panic as a spiritual worker, a healer, a medium, all of that, knowing that 2016 was a humongous year of awakening for many things. But, 23 is year of the experiencer for sure. and our show goes right along with that.
Okay.
The experiencers are the disclosure.
Okay, and I know everyone has to do that thing called work tomorrow, and I just want to give you about the last 3 or 4 minutes to explain where the conference is again, the website, and all that information, and when the Voices of Contact podcast airs, and where people can get alien scriptures, initiation, a new world, if you can take it, other of Michael's books, Mary's, anything about Mary, and then we can conclude the night there, and everyone could get rested up for tomorrow.
Okay, well, I can start if you'd like about
Sure.
the Michigan UFO Contact. Again, the website is MIUFOCON.com, and it stands for, of course, MichiganUFOCon.com. You can get tickets and all the information right on the website. There is also a Facebook page, Michigan UFO Contact. The information is there. Tickets are available on Ticket Leap. It's September 22nd and 23rd. It's a 2-day event in Houghton Lake, Michigan at the Lakeside Resort and Conference Center. VIP tickets, of course, have been sold out for quite some time, but we still have, general tickets available. And we have some wonderful guests like Michael Carter, Mary Bassett, Deb Cobble. We also have Andrea Perrin, John E.L. Tenney, Amber Rose Hammond, Tim Ellis and Brad Blair, and they are longtime researchers and have a team called UPPRS, Upper Peninsula Paranormal Research Society. They put on the Michigan Paracon every year and have done so for 13 years. They have had many sightings and dealt with, working in the paranormal and being that involved, you can't avoid other paranormal activities like cryptids and UFOs. So they will be there. And, of course, Bill Konkolaski, the state director. And I have to give a shout-out to Mike Smith from 734 Designs. He is our partner. He does the graphics and things like that, and he's a huge part of putting this conference.
He makes us look good, yeah.
Yeah, he's the one that makes us look good, for sure.
Okay. Mary, is there anything you want to plug about your appearance or the
you can find,
show?
You can find the Voices of Contact every Friday night, Eastern Standard Time, on the Mystical Awakening podcast YouTube channel, and you can also find it on the Voices of Contact Facebook page. And if anybody's interested in regression work, they can reach out to me at mamamaryregressions@hotmail.com.
Okay, good. And Michael, you can wrap it up and give out your...
you can get my books on Amazon or Barnes & Nobles. Just type in Reverend Michael J.S. Carter. My website is ReverendMichaelJSCarter.com. I'm on Facebook. And, you know, if you are in the area, the weekend of the 21st, I think I know it off the top of my head, but my mind is failing now.
22nd and 23rd.
Please drop by. It'll be well worth your time, and hope to see you there.
Okay, that sounds like it concludes everything. I think we brought up. I think everyone brought up so many interesting topics that I know it's a great lead in to next week's show, as well as tying together some information from last week. So I really appreciate the four of you being guests with us tonight and providing such a captivating discussion that some people whisper about, but more people are actually talking about. I think that's one of the most important first steps. So I think did a lot of lay the foundations for people to follow. So we're very appreciative of that. So thank you again, everyone, for tuning in. Thanks, Mary,